Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life podcast.
Welcome to the Towing Life podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I'm your host, TowManG, and as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, friend, and former co-worker, the man with very strong opinions, Mr. PlainGuy.
What is going on, G? What is going on?
I just had to double check to make sure we were recording, to be honest with you.
Oh, I thought you had to make sure you remembered what your intro was after 121 episodes.
No, I got that down pretty good. My memory's pretty bad, but I think I've got that memorized decently.
How do you think that affects by pressure? Do you think that is something that, like, when you're under pressure, it's harder to memorize? Like, when you're put in a situation of high pressure, do you feel like your brain goes to potato? Are you one of those people?
I've got pretty bad brain fog to begin with. Like, I can't remember lots of things. My memory is absolutely horrible. The thing that comes to memory is last year we went out for a family breakfast for the pancake breakfast that the local Legion puts on. And I remember going to that. And I remember going to the furniture store to buy some couches. But I could not remember that was the same day. I can remember both events happening, but it was news to me that we did that on the same day. And I was driving.
I don't think, but how long after did you have our time? Like, if we're talking a year later, obviously.
It was a year later, but everyone who went remembered.
Yeah, well, your family might just have a very good memory, and you might have a mediocre at best.
Yeah, it's not even mediocre.
The reason I asked that, and I'll go over a quick story before we get into our rigmarole and everything else that we've got on the docket for today, is that I had a driver last night where we were on our way back from a meeting, happened to see one of our trucks was responding to an MVC. Called him up over the radio, said, "Hey, you got everything under control there?" Yeah, I got it. No worries. Okay, well, we're going to swing by anyways. So I swung by with myself and one of the owners. The other owner was actually in the back seat. He stayed in the vehicle because he didn't have any work clothes on. So for the sake of professionalism, he's not going to go on scene. So we get on scene and I watch this operator, who's a good operator. And I could tell he was having a moment. Yeah. He was having a mental lapse, right? We just pulled up. We asked them, what's the plan? They said, we're going to do this and this. Okay. We're just going to stand back and watch. Right. So the pressure's on for these guys. You know, they are new enough operators, right? They're not 3-year operators by any means or anything like that. So we're just going to watch. And it's hard at times to watch and to see a mistake. Not a catastrophic mistake. Not a mistake that's going to hurt or, damage anything. But a way that you wouldn't do it.
Yep.
And you're stuck sitting on your hands. Because if I stop him now, I might not see other mistakes that he might make.
Yeah.
So we let him make this mistake. And so he had a couple minor things. Nothing crazy. Like nothing that, was worrisome. But I looked at it after and I talked to him in the yard and I said, "Hey, you did a good job. This is where you did good. This is like what, this is where I think you did wrong. How do you think you did?" And he goes on to say, like, "I don't know what it is. I can do it 100 times right. And as soon as you guys show up, my brain just lapses."
Yeah.
And that's a pressure thing. That is a pressure. Some people thrive on that kind of pressure. Right? I loved when there was cops and firefighters and everyone's watching trying to figure out what you're going to do. I strived for that kind of stuff. I loved it.
Yep.
Some people don't have that. Right? Now, this one, you didn't have the fire department really watching them. They were doing their own thing, some cleanup. The cop was doing statements. No one was really watching them until we showed up.
Yep.
And then we showed up and his brain went, what do I do again?
Yeah, that happens from time to time. You think, like, you look at how the military trains because they're putting their guys into high stress situations and it has to be muscle memory for a lot of their tactics. I'm not saying we need training like the military, that's far from it, but that's where proper good training comes in. But that's the downfall of the towing industry is everything's different. And that's something we've been talking about a lot in the last couple of episodes. or no two jobs are the same. So muscle memory might not help you the same as it would in other professions because it's going to be slightly different. Yes, you need to know your numbers off the top of your head and how to work safely, but your rigging points are going to be different and everything like that. But yeah, I really do like having people watch me because then they get to share in the excitement that I get when that car comes rolling over or the truck gets out of the ditch or whatever the
Or the
little
disappointment when it doesn't.
yeah, yeah. And they say, "Well, what are you going to do?" It's like, "I don't know, I'm just going to keep pulling until it either comes out or something breaks." And they look at you. Yeah,
I
because
I, be, I believe that would be your actual approach too, in a non-joking way.
well, you got to set their expectations low to avoid disappointment.
Yeah, no, the only major mistake this guy made is that two ambulances were on scene. The one ambulance was not treating any patients, but he backed up and got so close to this thing that there was still a paramedic in the back of the ambulance.
Hmm.
And when he went to get up, he couldn't open his back door. That's how close my operator got to his back
Oh,
door.
wow.
So, and I told him, in a situation like that, the people with the red and blue lights are a lot more priority than you are.
Yeah.
So if you can see him and you can go, "Hey, are you able to move so that I can do this?" If the answer is no, by all
Yeah.
means, again, they take priority over what you're doing.
Mhm.
If the answer is yes, then kindly have them move and give
And
yourself
if
the
you're in a
approach.
state where it allows red and blue lights, you don't count.
Yeah, exactly. But the people that are there to save lives and not load cars take priority over the people that are there to load cars.
Yeah.
It's a reality. And if
Mhm.
you disagree with that reality, I, I don't know. You live in some sort of fictional world.
Mhm.
So, anyways, questions, comments, concerns for the show are always important to us. We love to hear from you guys. And we are actually today going to get into some comments over on the YouTube side, some messages we received over on Facebook. So if you want to have your chance to have your opinion heard, your, story, whatever it is, you can reach out to us in four actually very easy ways. You can visit us at thetowinglife.ca, www.towinglife.ca, and there's a contact us form, and you can write us a little thing. It'll give us an email. We'll go from there. You can email us at thetowinglife@gmail.com directly, thetowinglife@gmail.com, or it's as simple as visiting us on Facebook at the Towing Life Podcast. If you're over on the YouTube side, it's very easy. Head on down below, drop a comment. G is going to go over some of the comments from YouTube today. As we know, I don't watch them, or I don't monitor the YouTube. That is a completely TowManG thing.
Yep.
So while you're over on the YouTube side, don't forget, hit the like and subscribe so you get notified every time we have a new episode come out. And we appreciate you coming out once again this week. Also, before we get too far, don't forget, we're on a very limited supply. They are going fast. I've got more labels to print and more calendars to ship out this week.
Is one of them
Our
mine?
Nope.
Oh.
Our 2024 Recovery of the Month calendar are on sale now. Head over to towinglife.ca/recovery. Get yours. We've got all kinds of great things going on with this. It's awesome to see them starting to get into people's hands, and people are sending us the photos, and we're getting the opportunity to post it over on Facebook. It is a nice project that we have done
Mhm.
that is coming to an end as we get closer to the end of December. Get your calendar in, right? You want it for January 1. You want it. So we've still got a couple left. We're still shipping out. So be sure to head over to towinglife.ca/recovery. Get yours. $5 from the sale of every calendar goes to the Ontario Professional Towing Association of Ontario's Benevolent Fund, which is a fund created to help families of operators who have been hit or killed in the line of duty.
Mhm.
So it's all for a good cause. It's help support the show, help support the charity, and get yours today. You're only going to get yours, G, once I run out of other like once the sales stop. If I've got one left over, I'll send one your way.
Oh, well, if you sell out, then I'm shit out of luck.
All right, so let's get right into it. We've got some YouTube comments. We've got some YouTube or Facebook questions. What do you want to start with?
We can start with one of the comments that I liked. This was back on um
Glad you got these queued up for us today,
yeah,
G.
episode 114. I think we were talking about listening to the podcast and having the phone on the dash.
Oh, Jesus.
Brad says, but if I put my phone down while I'm driving, I can't listen to the podcast. So hook it up to the Bluetooth, please.
Brad, we're available on Spotify Amazon Music, all things that not only can you run in the background that you don't need the screen open, but some would
If you
argue,
have YouTube Premium, you can keep videos playing with the screen blacked out too.
okay,
Shameless plug for YouTube Premium, but just a perk.
absolutely. Spotify is free.
Yeah.
Amazon Music is free. Everywhere else that we are listening, I mean, we are listed in dozens of places that you can do without having your phone on your dash. And you don't have to look at our ugly mugs.
Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
I don't
We
know
got a
why
couple.
anyone watches on YouTube.
We've got a couple of comments from Joe. He's made an appearance on the show before in comment form. This is to answer about your sweet tea. Middle of the rant. You are right. True sweet tea is made with sugar. The sweet tea you buy at the store or McDonald's is an artificial sweetener and it is not true sweet tea. Homemade is the only true sweet tea.
Okay,
So
fair
you
enough.
didn't have true sweet tea that day.
I didn't have true sweet tea. I had sweet tea from a place in the States called Sheets, which seems to be a popular like gas station chain
Yeah.
down there. So if I'll make you a deal, Joe. You go try Sheets. You tell me how far off it is on a scale 1 to 10 from the real stuff.
Mhm.
And then I'll base my opinion. If you tell me it's like a 3, I'm willing to try homemade sweet tea. If you tell me that stuff's not bad, it's like a 7, sweet tea sucks.
He also goes on to say, please, Daddy PlainGuy, can you run the recovery of the month calendar next year? I want to be in it.
Well, Joe, you might have missed your chance. I'm not going to lie. You might have missed your chance. We have not made any commitments into 2024 on what we are doing. It is possible that we do something different that might not be the same physical calendar. We're going to work on, I think I'd like to work on a project for 2024. I'm just not 100% sure what that project is going to be yet. But obviously, whatever project it is, I would like it to include involvement from our listeners and from the community. That is what this has been about from day one. So I'm not saying no. I'm just not sure what we're gonna do yet. Is that a pretty fair answer, G? You think that's
So are you saying you want to do something that's bigger than the calendar that we're doing this year?
bigger than the calendar that we're doing this year?
And I'm not
These
just
are
talking an actual like scale of calendar.
I maybe do a 24 month.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Like I said, I want to do something with community involvement on the show with our community that we've built of our listenership. Absolutely. I want to do something that can involve a charity in some way.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'm just not sure if I want to do the calendar thing again. I want to look at what other options are out there and do something that we can give back to our listeners.
If
That we
you
can give
got
back to
any
the
suggestions,
industry.
leave them
Yeah,
down below in the comments or send us an email. Hit us up on the Facebook. Let us know what you
absolutely.
think.
I'm still trying to launch the Towing Life podcast world tour. But I haven't been able to secure the tour bus yet.
Oh, no tour bus?
Well, the tour bus is like the short bus because like I got to get you the short bus.
Yeah.
And
I rode on a short bus for a couple of years in high school.
I nobody on the show is going to debate that fact.
Well, it's a funny story. My stepmother worked at that school, and she was like, "I can get you free transportation to the school." And it was on a short bus. So I didn't have to pay for
She's like win-win.
yeah, I didn't have to pay for a bus ticket every day to get to school, so it saved me a lot of money in high school. And I got to meet some pretty cool people on that short bus. Okay.
I bet you did.
We got one more comment from Joe.
Okay.
And this is regarding the airbag thing that I kind of talked about briefly in the end of the last episode, which you probably didn't listen to because PlainGuy wasn't here. And why are you sticking around just for me? He says, always drop your airbag suspension on a flatbed rollback. I have been using airbag suspension for over 20 years. I will never drive anything without. TowManG is correct. That's the first time I've ever heard someone say that, so thank you. He says, my boss was the same way. Why do you drop your airbags every load? My response was, the load angle is better and the weight of the vehicle is not solely on the bags while loading. They weren't meant to be dropped and risen with every load. They were meant to be dropped and risen by every load. There we go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I am a big believer again. I listened vaguely into your part about your airbags. And I'm a big believer in dropping the airbags every time. Again, approach angles, sits down up on the frame.
Yep.
I don't know how that truck in question had the failure that it had.
No.
I'm not an engineer, but I've always dropped my air suspension when loading and re-lifted it up once I'm back ready to roll. Again, approach angle is a huge reason, right? That little extra bit. And he is right. The airbags are designed, as far as I'm aware, to lift that load, to drop, be loaded, to lift, to roll.
And it also makes it easier to stabilize your bed, too, I think.
Not really. Your reasoning, well, it also depends what kind of trucks, right? Like I run an NRC.
Yeah.
There's Jordans and other makes out there that have that stupid little. I have one on a Century, on a
Little
Dodge
foot
5500. That foot,
Yeah.
the foot that's supposed to touch down. I hate the foot.
A 2 by 1 inch steel tube.
Yeah, I'd rather use my wheel lift as a stabilizer when need be,
Mm-hmm.
and leave me the flexibility to do a lot more weird stuff with my bed than without it. So it is very possible that with, depending on how you set up the truck and how you set up your foot, if when you're leaving the air up, are you not touching the, the foot and stabilizing your bed properly?
Yeah.
So that is something that, would have to be looked at depending on how you set the truck up originally. If it's set up to not drop the suspension to load, which I can't see, you may be doing more harm by leaving the bags up.
Yeah, like if you put your wheel lift down and your bags are still inflated to support your unloading process in like an NRC, I don't really see what really makes a difference if your wheel lift's taking all the weight. Other than now your bags are inflated and you're trying to pick up the axle with air in the bags, so now it's got to release the air. I just feel like you're making the automatic calibration system on the truck work more often than what it needs to. And especially in the Canadian winters, I'm not sure what everyone's setup is. On my pickup, I've got a bar that runs down to the leaf springs because they're helper bags. And that can start to seize up with extended use or being used too little or too much. I don't like putting any of my eggs into baskets I can't control. So if I can manually do something like turning on my headlights, I do that. If I can manually drop the bags and just let it inflate by itself afterwards when it's done, that's personally how I like to do things in every aspect of my life.
You're very manually, mentally and physically. You're a very manual person.
Yeah, very.
Perfect. I hope that answers your question, Joe. Okay, I got one from a Facebook question that was messaged over to us, and I think it's a good one. It's a good time to talk about it. This came from Sean over on Facebook. His question was, "Good morning, fellas. As winter is slowly approaching, LOL, I'm just wondering if everybody does the same schedule for the most part, with trucks, new tires in the fall, new deck straps in the spring. I really hate putting new deck straps on for them to get disgusting all winter. What about winch lines? Whenever it's needed, or do you replace them every year?" It's a great question, right? Winter is coming. Winter is here. Winter was here, now it left.
It's green outside again.
I think it's coming back maybe in a couple weeks. It's like a crazy ex-girlfriend. It's here, and then it's not here, then it's here, then it's not here, then it's angry at you.
It's like herpes in the third grade. Not third grade, eighth grade, sorry.
Third grade, no less. Okay. Yes, I do like a lot of things. When it comes to things that I intentionally replace in the fall, work boots. Big believer in getting new work boots right before the winter.
Yeah, if you've ever broken down to putting Walmart bags around your feet before you put them in your boots, you'll know why you buy new work boots in the fall.
Yeah, so normally work boots I can get about a year out of them. So I tend to do my replacement in the fall, right before the winter, as close as I can get to the winter, to make sure that I'm sealed up, waterproof, good for the winter. I'm not a big believer in having a second pair of boots. I wear my one pair every day.
Yep.
The time it takes to take them off to put other boots on to go do a call on a snowbank, I'd rather just have a good set of boots going into winter. And don't cheap out on your boots.
Yep.
Obviously, yes, you try and schedule your tires. If your tires are running about a year's length, you're trying to schedule them again in the fall, right before the winter. Straps, I don't know what it is, but I got guys going through straps lately quicker than... There's obviously a training issue that's missing somewhere. So to say to go through a 4-pack of straps in a year, I mean, good on you if you're getting that you can wait till the spring to do all 4. Normally doing them twice a year at least, possibly a third time depending, or intermittently throughout, replacing straps as they need it. What was it new? What was the other thing? Straps, winch lines. Winch lines are as needed. The winch is the winch line is the most underrated thing on the truck.
And without it on a bed, you can't do your job.
Yep, that's
like it's the lifeblood of the flatbed, really.
Yep.
Unless you're driving cars onto beds, which you shouldn't be doing.
But that's what I mean. It is something that is used every call.
Yep.
Right. Other than a tire change or a boost, it's used every call.
Yep.
And it's used consistently, and it is, I've said, an absolute important part of the truck.
Yep.
And it's an important part for safety. Right. Again, I know a lot of you guys still running the steel core or the fiber core, which is a lot better than the old steel core.
Yep.
We do run a synthetic rope. So the synthetic rope on itself, like I said, it's easy to damage. So you got to be checking that constantly, but it's also very nice to work with, especially in the wintertime as well. Right. You had a question or something about what kind of gloves.
Yeah, I saw something on the Facebook. The guy said,
what kind of gloves do you recommend? Because I'm tired of my hands
getting poked by my winch cable.
Yeah. Then you're not replacing your winch cable, or you're not taking care of it.
Yeah.
So I like I said, I think fall is a good time to replace a lot of the stuff. Obviously, spring is a great time to replace and clean up all the shiny stuff.
Yep.
Right, looking good for summer. But wintertime, yeah, tires for sure. We have our most of our safeties on our units come due right before the winter, which is a good time too, because it gets everything a good chance to get gone over thoroughly.
Yep.
To make sure that we're going into the busy and crazy season with, our equipment is kept pretty top notch.
Yep.
But you never know. There's things that you can find. So yeah, it's a good time. The fall this is your money season, right? Like, I'd like to see the numbers, but I know I have access to them. I just have to pull them up. But I want to say, like, if you go on a revenue per month base, obviously your winter months are higher. We know that. Right. So you want to be running into wintertime with your equipment and your operators and your, boots.
Yep.
As best as they can be, because you are going to run now. Especially, yep. I don't know where you're coming out of, Sean. I don't know if you're in the south, in the north. I'm assuming you're somewhere a little more north. Just saying that you don't like to put new straps on to get them all disgusting over winter.
I don't like that. So if you replace, a lot of people should really be replacing their wheel straps at least twice a year. So what I think would be a good idea, and what a lot of my guys have done in the past, people I've worked with, you buy a new set of straps approaching the winter time. So now when your one set of straps gets disgusting, like you said, you can take those straps off the truck and put them in the shop to dry, and you can put your old straps on for a day or two and then keep swapping them out. Yeah. Right? And then come the spring, you throw out that old set, and as long as your new set isn't completely gone or disgusting, depending, like, that's one thing with the wheel straps, with the dog bones, they start fraying by the dog bone when you get them nice and tight, and they wear out quick there. And that's just their straps. That's just what they do.
I don't think that's where they actually wear out, though. Mine don't normally wear out where the dog bones are, because the dog bones are constantly moving positions based on size of wheels.
Sometimes.
A lot of times I'm starting to get wear, and we put some protectors on for these. They're getting wear from the strut towers on the backside.
Yeah.
Or the stabilizer links on the backside where they get caught up on. And they're riding on there, and they're starting to wear out on it. So we've tried putting strap protectors on. Yep. Honestly, they're more of a hassle. They get in the way. They slow guys down to the point that I think it's easier to just run without them and just shorten up your replacement cycle on the
That's
straps.
one thing. Don't cheap out on wheel straps, because if you're doing it properly, that vehicle is up there, winch cable's slack, in neutral, and your wheel straps are the only thing holding the vehicle on your deck. Honestly, buy 20 sets of wheel straps in bulk and leave them in your shop. And when they need to be replaced, just replace it. Then you're not waiting, right? If you
say put them behind a locked door, though, because drivers love to just replace stuff that doesn't need to be replaced yet.
This is true. Something that we started to do with most of our trucks is getting different colored straps for each truck. And then you
Mhm.
can monitor how well a driver does with that set of wheel straps. And then they can't just go steal one or swap one off someone else's truck. And then
Yeah, yeah.
if they broke something, they had to go get a generic color out of the shop to put it on their truck. So they got 3 blue ones and 1 yellow one.
Yeah, no, oh, the infamous, I don't have this, I'm gonna go grab it off of
Yeah.
another truck because I need it for this call, and then I'm never gonna return it nor tell that operator that it was
Mm-hmm.
removed from that truck. That is like my favorite. It's like that Christmas exchange gift game that you do. It's like that with tow trucks.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate.
Except nobody knows the game is being played and nobody knows what's actually in it.
Mhm. If you're gonna take something off a truck, at least tell the guy. Say, "Hey, I took your big tow light out of your truck, so you only got a small one." Right?
Well,
Instead of you showing up to move a box truck and you're like, "Well, now I gotta try to jerry rig my little towmate light bar on the back of this fucking box truck to get down to do this 2 kilometer tow."
so I ran into a similar situation like that one night, and it wasn't so much that the guy took something out of the truck. So we supply all your basic tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it is up to the operators to supply if they want to run an impact gun instead of a T-bar. They
Mm-hmm.
supply the impact gun.
Yep.
And I've always been a big believer that if you're going to, at the end of the day, take your impact out or the end of your shift, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
100%, that's yours.
Yep.
That is your tool that you provided to the truck. I don't expect it to be in the truck.
Mm-hmm.
So I use this operator's truck one day. I go out to do a call, and it was a 2500 little, I don't know if it was a 35. It was a 3500 single rear wheel box truck.
Mm.
That had a flat tire.
Yep.
Flat tire and something else. Flat tire, no spare. That's what it was.
Mm.
And so I get out there to tow it. And one of my bed guys, I believe, had gone down. It was too tall for the bed.
Mm.
So I show up with the wrecker. He's gone. I don't remember how it all played out, if the bed guy went, or if we knew it was too high, so we didn't send the bed. Anyways, I get out
Yeah, it
there.
was on the highway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With a new guy in tow, like a new guy with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, all right, well, it's we can't rear tow it. I can't remember.
It was
I don't
on the
remember this.
highway facing forwards and it was a rear flat. So you wanted to take the tire off the
Yes.
front and put it on the back to get it off the
Yes.
highway.
Yes.
I can't believe I remember
Because
that story better than you do.
it wasn't practical to tow it backwards in its spot to get off the highway,
Yeah.
right? Because we've done some cheater stuff like that before, but it
Mhm.
wasn't practical in the scenario. So we're gonna have to front tow it. In order to front tow it, we're gonna have to put that tire, swap the tire to the back.
Mhm.
And I remember the irony behind this is that I actually had to flip the tow truck around, period, to lift the back end because the jack wouldn't lift the back end.
Yeah.
But when I go to change this tire, there's no impact on the truck. No problem. Grab my big tire iron. This thing's like an 8-bolt Chevy.
Yeah.
There's no tire iron.
Hmm.
And I'm scrounging through his toolkit, and I'm doing this with a 3/8 ratchet
Oh no.
on an 8-bolt Chevy. And I got it done.
Yeah.
Part of me was to prove to the new operator that you make things happen no matter what.
Yeah.
And part of it was because I'm far enough outside of town that it doesn't really practical to send somebody down here to bring me something.
Mhm.
And so that was it. I said, where's your tire iron? Well, that was the tool that somebody else had taken out. Well, I was missing a tire iron in my truck, and this thing was parked there that day, so I took it out of there.
Mm.
Did you tell anybody? Nope. Now, the operator who came in and used his truck that day should have noticed that he didn't have a tire iron.
Yeah.
Because you should be inspecting your equipment every day.
Mhm.
Right? Like, this could have been a lot worse. Imagine if you're dealing with police on scene.
Yeah.
Right? Even the customer already in that situation, I look unprofessional.
Mhm.
You don't have an impact gun? You don't have a tire iron? You're out here with your 3/8 Stanley ratchet?
Hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? Why aren't
Yeah.
you equipped to do this job?
Mhm.
But now you start to, that's already a hit at the company.
I
And then
think
it's
it
the police
always
and everything else on scene.
it always sucks because I've been in that position more times than I'd like to admit, and I think a lot of drivers and operators have. And that's what pisses you off more. Not the fact that it's missing, but the fact that it makes you look bad, and then you got to try to explain to the customer with not shedding bad light on your company or your coworker, because that's a slippery slope as to, hey, I'm sorry, I won't be able to do this job because of this reason, or this is why it's going to look funny for me using a different tool that's not designed to do this job properly.
Yep. And some customers won't know.
No.
Some customers won't have the slightest idea that the difference between a 3/8 ratchet and T-bar.
Mhm.
But some will.
Yep.
And like I said, you're right. It's you don't want to throw a coworker under the bus because that's bad luck on the company.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to make the company look bad.
Nope.
You don't want to make yourself look bad.
Nope.
So you make the best of the situation. You try and kind of roll it off,
Mm-hmm.
and move forward with it with there. So
Talking
that
about
is the
equipment,
yeah.
talking about equipment that's missing. Have you ever driven, let's say, a wrecker that has a backup camera,
Yep.
and you drive it for like a year, and you get real used to the backup camera for whatever reason, just to even check on the vehicle while you're going down the road, and then you get into a truck that doesn't have a backup camera, and it takes you a second to remember how to do your job without that tool?
No.
No?
No.
I think a lot of drivers get that way. One of the first time I ever got a backup camera in one of my trucks, it was an aftermarket one. It was bolted onto the back of the tailboard, and it was nice because of the angle of where it's sat. If you're dollying most things, you could actually see the dolly tires underneath the car that you're towing, just because of the height difference. And it was really nice. I loved it. But the problem was it was a big bulky unit, so it kind of stuck out a fair bit. It was prone to not necessarily getting hit, but it was easier to hit it if something was to arise. And eventually it just stopped working for whatever reason. And it was a small company, so I didn't really try to get it fixed. And then I found out it wasn't actually the camera, it was the wiring or something, which was just a job that I wasn't capable of doing myself. Unbolting it and splicing two wires together, that I can do, right? So I just decided, you know what? I don't really need the backup camera anymore. But it took me a couple of weeks to get fully back into the swing of things, of being able to judge again, because I fell victim to this is a new tool and I'm going to rely on it. And now, once it's no longer there, I got to go back to the old way of using my mirrors like I should have been in the first place and not relying on a camera.
Yeah. So backup cameras are, how do I say this? On let's just talk general vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Backup cameras are a tool
Mm-hmm.
to help in the process.
Yep.
They are not meant to be used as the only thing used in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My wife is terrible for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have a backup camera in my work truck. She's got a backup camera in her SUV.
Mm-hmm.
I use my backup camera. The only thing I use on my backup camera is depth.
Yep.
Right? I still use my mirrors
Mm-hmm.
religiously to back
Mm-hmm.
in everywhere that I go. So that's probably where, on the wrecker side, no, I've never really had that problem either, because I always still used my mirrors.
Yep.
I really didn't use the backup camera.
Mm-hmm.
The backup camera was only a way to, I would use it to judge to get back so I could fold my wheel lift.
Mm.
That was it.
Yep.
Backing under it, I would still use my mirrors left to right to get myself centered. And
Yep.
then I would just take a quick glance on it to make sure as it's going under, I'm not ripping a bumper or anything. But I already knew, because my height was set at what I've been setting my height years
Mm-hmm.
without having a camera.
Yep.
So it was simply used as that little tool extra. The problem is too many people use these. Cars are coming out with more and more features.
A
Blind spot
360
detection,
degree camera around the vehicle now.
360-degree camera, blind spot detectors, backup cameras, all this kind of stuff are meant to be used as tools to help you,
Mm-hmm.
not how you drive the vehicle.
Yep.
Right? Your 360 camera is a tool to help you when you can't see that front corner.
Mm-hmm.
To help you when you know what I mean, to make sure there's not something below your tire area or something, or below your sight line that you
Mm-hmm.
might be missing. That's what they're used for. That's what they are. Sorry, what they are meant for.
Mm-hmm.
They are used to pretty much, I can just look at this screen while I back up and pay zero attention to anything else going on around me. So it almost sounds like, in the scenario with you and the wrecker that you were talking about, is that you got too dependent on that tool.
Yeah, so like when I'm backing up to a car, I normally look in the third mirror up in the top, and
Yep.
I normally look for the little antenna on the roof.
Yep.
If it's centralized, then I center that roughly in the mirror or with the third middle seat
Yeah.
headrest.
Oh,
Right,
I
so that's
do.
how I know.
I do the boom aimed at the rear view mirror.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you leave your boom up, you can actually right through the shiv head. It's
Mhm.
like a little sight on like iron sights on a rifle. That works too. But with the backup camera, if it was centralized, I could center the pivot pin on the wheel lift to the emblem of the car, and then I would be
But
bang
what
on every
backup
time.
camera on a wrecker? Maybe on a non-independent, on an independent, but on any
Yeah,
Z boom, there you can't center them.
I know you can't center them on a lead boom, but on
That's
my
the problem why I
independent
never used
wrecker,
mine in my wrecker, because the goddamn thing was off-centered, and so it would mess you up more than anything if you were trying to
yeah.
use that as a centering point.
But so with the truck I was driving, it had the factory Dodge um, backup camera, but mounted on the tailboard, dead center, right where it would
Okay.
be. So it was nice because it had the big 3-inch crossbar, which is hard to fit under some small vehicles. So a lot of times you kind of either got to jack the vehicle up or put your wheel up and drag it on the ground to get under some cars.
Right.
Well, if you go over any sort of elevation change, that wheel lift might come up. And the backup camera was great for that, to be able to see if it came up a half an
Right.
inch and now is no longer going to clear from the 2 to 3
Yeah.
inches that you got to back up.
If you're
Or
on
if
an
you,
uneven ground or something
yeah,
like that.
exactly.
100%. 100%.
So that was really, really handy. And I really liked that. And without having that backup camera there, there's more of a potential risk or time savings of having to get out and check manually if you think that you saw one of your wheel grids go up.
Yep.
Personally, I'm a firm believer of pull your wheel grids all the way out and put your
Swivels.
spoon, yeah, your swivels out so you can see those in your mirror,
If
right?
you're running the Vulcan system, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, no,
um,
absolutely.
just so you can see them in your mirror. Because if you do slide them in to where the tires will be, right? So it's a pain in the ass once you back up to the car. A lot of times you got to lift it up and pound them back in. It's a pain that way. I get that. And it doesn't save you any time. But if that wheel lift catches something on the left hand side and now pivots a little bit and you don't have a camera and you can't see, now that
Mhm.
swivel head might go into a bumper.
Yep.
And that's not what
Yep.
I want,
No.
right? So having that
No.
backup camera there, super ideal for either way that you're doing it with your
But
son.
like I said, you're using it as an extra tool.
Mm-hmm.
You still need you still put them out to the sides. You
Yep.
still use everything that you would with your mirrors, but you're using it for an extra tool. That is
Mm-hmm.
understandable.
Yep.
Clearly, you weren't doing that whenever because like I said, if you're doing all that and you're just doing it as a double check to check,
Yep.
it wouldn't be that hard to adapt after losing that backup camera.
Well, I find like once you find a tool that is like a wonder tool that you really like and it works perfectly for what you need, you start to rely on it more. And that's why I say I'm a manual type guy because I don't like that feeling of relying on this certain tool to do a job that I've got mirrors for, or I can get out and check with my own two eyeballs, right? Because I feel like I'm that type of person that will fall down into that groove of I got myself lined up and now I just look down at the screen to back up. I don't want to be one of those people, but I could see myself becoming one of those people. So I physically, mentally have to make a note of not to. So keep doing these other things to make it easier to do it the way everyone else used to have to do it.
Fair enough. Absolutely. So we are starting to run closer and closer on time, but before we go, I want to get into this Facebook post that we pulled off of the web today, which was a great opportunity. It was from the interwebs. Wonderful. Sorry about the potato quality photos. I got them on Facebook. They were the highest quality I could get off it. It was a post of a vehicle who clearly drove or, hit a garage door
Mhm.
being offloaded off a flatbed. And it's the ignorance behind the original poster. And I covered his photo and I took out his last name.
Mhm.
I left his first name because, well, there's got to be a little accountability on the internet nowadays.
Fucking Tyler.
Yeah, goddamn Tyler. And he goes, and here is why we don't unload in front of garage doors. So the statement is that we don't unload in front of garage doors because we hit garage doors.
Yeah.
That is the most ignorant comment. And people, I wish I would have grabbed screenshots of some of the comments. People absolutely lit him up on that fact.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They were like, no, the comments, the statement should be, that's why you don't.
Yeah.
And to my understanding, Tyler was not the poster of it. It was a coworker. who did this.
He was the poster. Tyler did
He was
post.
the poster. He was not
not
the poster was not the man who did the actual car
Mhm.
into a garage door. Now,
Mhm.
it's very hard to tell by the quality of photos where this went wrong.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if it was he parked too close, kept winching, hit the door, if he had a winch failure,
Mhm.
if he attempted to offload a vehicle without the winch attached, and ride the brakes down. We don't have enough information.
By the impact on the door, like it's popped out one of the actual rollers on both sides of the
Yeah,
door.
and then the hood's
So
crunkled.
so it doesn't look like it was that hard of a hit. So like if it was up on the deck and just let go, it would have got a lot more momentum to go more through that door, I think.
It could have free
What I
spooled
think
though
was the
3/4
brakes
of
are
the
a
way
little
down.
pretty spongy on the truck, and the operator got in it to drive it off the bed, and he just couldn't stop in time.
But you can't make that assumption.
That's what it looks like, though.
No, because that winch could have free spooled 3/4 of the way down the bed.
Yeah,
And all it was the last foot or two that it rolled off into the truck.
yeah.
That operator could have kept, I mean, you'd have to be completely oblivious to keep
Mhm,
winching when it's into the door,
mhm.
right? Like it's one thing to touch something. I've done that.
Yeah,
100% winching something off a bed, and you're playing in tight margins. You think you left yourself enough room, and you just touch it. You
mhm.
kiss it. You don't do that.
Yeah,
You don't do that kind of damage
mhm.
to a door by kissing it,
No.
right? So obviously it hit it with an amount of force.
Mhm,
But no, that shouldn't be a reason why you don't unload in front of garage doors. Again, depending if it was mechanical. If it's a mechanical failure, well, was the inspection up to date?
no.
If it was an operator error. So fun story. I did this in my yard one day. Don't know how I did it. I got out of my truck. I have a very specific routine I do every time.
Mhm,
And I had somehow put my winch into free spool. And I have an air activated free spool.
mhm.
Well, the winch will not disengage from free spool
When it's under load.
when it's under load.
Yeah,
Now, what happened is when I was winching something, I don't know what, for whatever reason, I stopped. And when I stopped, there was that slight huh.
yeah.
And it was enough to take the pressure off for a split second.
Mm,
And the winch released and the car went running. Now, I was parked between my rows, so there was a football field to go.
yeah.
And I just watched it. And I looked up my winch to see how much line I had. And I looked at how far the car was going and how fast. And I started doing the calculations with the numbers going in my head
Huh.
to figure out if I was going to run out of winch.
Hmm.
My brain thought for a second to re-engage the winch. That would have been a bad idea.
Yeah.
You're better to pull the line out of the drum
Mhm,
than to re-engage the winch while it's free spool and rolling down the road.
mhm.
So I mean, it happens, and
Yeah,
in my scenario, it was 100% operator error.
yeah.
So did something like that happen with this operator? We don't know. If it is, okay, that's a training thing, and even you can have mental moments. We talked about
Mhm,
them early on in the show, right? I still don't know how or why I free spooled it.
hmm.
I don't physically remember free spooling it, so I'm not 100% sure. Like to this day, I don't know. I watched it back on video. It was really fun to watch.
To be
Um,
honest with you, we have a 20 TB NRC, and we had issues with our free spooling, not free spooling, or just free spooled by itself with the air release.
mine. I looked at the switch. I manually flipped it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's not that a lot of times that they don't free spool by themselves. They rarely ever, the way the safety is built on, they don't free spool by themselves, is that they won't free spool.
Hmm.
If the air line gets clogged up, if there's a
Yeah,
problem with that, it won't free spool.
yeah.
Because
But
it requires
anytime
air
you're
pressure to
unloading
release it.
anything off the bed with an
Mhm.
obstacle on the other side, there's always more risk involved.
Well,
If
of
you
course.
can,
That could have been
if
a
you,
car.
yeah,
Like, that's like saying we don't unload in front of cars.
yeah,
We don't unload in front of ditches. We
yeah.
don't unload in front of, no, this is this is day one shit.
Hmm.
Shut up, Tyler.
Yeah. What if the guy had a really nice car and he gave you a $50 tip to say, "Can you unload it into my garage
Yeah.
for me?"
Yeah.
And that happens and the car rolls
Well,
through his house.
no. See, Tyler said we don't unload in front of garage doors. Tyler
Oh,
would be fine with unloading into the garage.
oh, okay. Or
Yeah.
in front of a mirror warehouse. Okay.
What about a mattress store?
Oh,
Tyler
that'd be
only unloads in front of mattress stores
yeah. Get
because
some
they'll be
bubble wrap on there,
soft.
you know?
Yeah.
We should
Yeah.
just start taping pool noodles to the front of every car that we're
Yeah.
unloading. Yeah.
Tyler unloads in front of bubble wrap factories,
Yeah.
mattress stores,
Yeah. And your
and
mom.
pool noodle sections of Walmart.
And your mom.
That's that's the only places Tyler's allowed to unload in front of.
Yeah.
So no, like, it's just an ignorant comment. I don't know if he was just trying to be funny, if he was trying to be smart, whatever. Hey, we all have our we all miss the
Who
mark. every
knows?
once
That
in a while.
door could have been crinkled like that before you even got there. And he's like, I've got this truck with some front end damage. I'll put it in there. It'll be a good, funny picture.
it's just a bad. No, I think the company, like I said, there was more that went into the story about if the company, was a newer operator. Obviously, probably had it. I'm gonna guess it was operator error.
Mhm.
Just if it's a new operator, my assumption, and again, we don't know the full story. But if I had a new operator and I got a call and sent these pictures, first thing I'm tending to lean to is an operator error. Unfortunately, it's the reality of it.
Mhm.
So, so that being said, we hate to attack people on the show. I've been called out about it in person, and I'll talk to you more about that after the show. G, called out on why we can't call out people. In this case, I think it is justified. Screw you, Tyler. Keep up the good work. Keep working hard. You might be a hell of an operator and a hell of a good guy. Don't know you from dirt. So, on behalf of myself, my wonderful host, Mr. TowManG, don't forget to get your 2024 calendar, Recovery of the Month calendars. They are selling out quick.
Mhm.
Time is running out. So be sure to pick them up now. Head over to towinglife.ca/recovery.
Will they still make
you.
it to you before Christmas?
I don't know. I can't guarantee that. My before Christmas guarantee is officially gone, but I'm working on. It'll be there before the middle of January. They're shipped out every week, so it's how long the postal service takes.
Yeah.
So on behalf of myself, my wonderful co-host, Mr. TowManG, thanks for coming to another episode, and we cannot wait to see you again next week. Take care.
Toodles.